Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Bray. I'm a master's student at McGill School of Urban Planning, and I'm your host today. Today's conversation aims to highlight how research and citizen action can inspire each other. This recorded conversation is made possible by collaboration between the Climate Reality Project Canada and McGill University. Today, we have Benoit Boulet from McGill University and Audrey Dépault from Quebec Electric Vehicle Association. They will discuss why sustainable transportation is existential and unmissable for improving all of our lives. Climate Reality Project Canada aims to mobilize citizens to gather data according to different sustainability indicators in order to pressure municipalities to work towards UN sustainability objectives. As for McGill University, it has over 200 faculty members from across 35 departments engaged in sustainability research, as well as over 100 McGill students, groups, clubs addressing the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Before we start, we would like to acknowledge that the Climate Reality Project Canada's office and McGill University are located on land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations. We recognize and respect these nations as the traditional stewards of the lands and waters on which we are hosting the discussion today. I would now like to invite our first guest, Professor Boulet, to introduce yourself and tell us how you got involved in the field of sustainable transportation and electrical vehicles. So over to you, Benoit.
Thank you, Michelle. So I'm a professor of electrical engineering, and my research is focused on control and automation for sustainability. I had the Intelligent Automation Lab in the Center for Intelligent Machines, where a good part of our research concerns the development of autonomous electric vehicles, along with charging solutions. I'm also director of the McGill Engine, which is a tech innovation and entrepreneurship center. I got involved in EV research because of my great concerns about climate change, and also after realizing that electrical engineers, had just as much to do with EV development as mechanical or automotive engineers.
Great. And so, Audrey Dépault, on your side, what got you involved in sustainable transportation and electrical vehicles specifically?
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Benoit. Well, first of all, I'm vice president of the Quebec Electric Vehicle Association. I've been involved with the association for about 2 to 3 years now. I'm also a municipal councillor in Vaudreuil, so I have a high interest in municipal solutions to climate change. But previously, before those roles, I was leading the Climate Reality Project Canada, and I was really aware of the importance of reducing transportation greenhouse gas emissions. That's if we want to solve this climate crisis, the one sector on which we really have to act on is transportation. So to give you an idea, energy for transport is responsible for 30% of greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. That's a huge deal, even more here in Quebec where I'm based. So yeah, electrifying transportation is not going to be the only solution, but it's certainly one of the crucial solutions. So that's why I got involved.
Great. So since your beginnings in your own respective domains, have you hit any turning points in regards to electrical vehicles? I'll let Audrey start.
Yeah, I mean, I would say every year EVs evolve so rapidly that the first EV that I drove, it must have been in 2011. It was a Nissan Leaf owned by Communauto, the car sharing program in Montreal. So back then, the electric range for that vehicle was around 170 kilometers. And in the best of scenarios, I drove it in very cold winter. So no need to tell you that it was a short drive, but I loved every second, every minute of it. But back in 2011, EVs were mostly considered city cars, mostly appropriate for people who didn't drive long distances, didn't necessarily need to leave the city. Now it's entirely, it's the opposite, I would say. It's great as a city car, but there are long range vehicles that are really perfect vehicles for those who drive very long distances very often. So things have changed a lot. Now you can easily cross Canada coast to coast with an electric car. So there's so much has changed.
And Professor Boulet?
Yeah, I think I realized that electric vehicles would replace internal combustion engine vehicles approximately 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And at that time, Tesla was developing the Model S. They had commercialized the Roadster. Nissan came up with the Leaf. around that time. And, I remember, because of my earlier research, driving in Michigan towards the big General Motors Research Center, that was back in 2007, driving on a highway, multiple lane, I think 6 lanes on each side, packed with cars on a 30°C day. It was like a vision of hell, with the fumes I thought, we're going into a wall. This is terrible, because all I could see was cars stuck in traffic and polluting. And so I thought, we got to do something about it. All the engineers, all the technical people, all the businesses should be tackling this problem. So I think around that time, it was starting. But another thing that's brought me to EVs is we started a big project, actually, which was funded by Automotive Partnership Canada. This was back during the time when there was a recession, and General Motors was at the brink of bankruptcy, and Ford as well. And the government of Canada thought, we're going to lose it all if we don't try to do innovation in Canada on vehicles. And I thought, well, this is the best way. I think the best thing to do is to look at electric vehicles. And so we started a big project with companies across Canada, including TM4 in Quebec. But I also remember going to the EVS, Electric Vehicle Symposium, in Barcelona in 2013 and test driving a Nissan Leaf at the time. And I was very pleasantly surprised. This thing was peppy, very controllable, and a difficult traffic to negotiate in Barcelona when you drive a car for the first time. But and then came this idea that driving an EV, there's no going back. It's like electrons crossing a diode. There's no going back through the diode. You drive an EV and you don't want to go back to combustion engine vehicles. That's as simple as that. That's as good a technology it is.
And clearly, we look very highly towards electrical vehicles, but could you guys maybe give us a bit of nuance? What are the pros and cons of electric cars exactly? Audrey?
Well, honestly, it's hard to find cons. I would agree with Benoit.
I would agree.
you can never go back. But I mean, I think it's important to say, if you don't need a car, don't buy a car. I'm not going to try and sell a car to someone who does not need a vehicle. But if you do need one, if you're currently driving a gas vehicle or diesel vehicle, switching to an EV will certainly reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. It will very likely reduce your overall cost of vehicle ownership. So not just the vehicle purchase, but also cost of operating it, fueling it, of maintaining it. So that's a huge plus. Less maintenance overall means less hassle. So that's always great. But I hear a lot of questions about the environmental benefits of EVs relative to gas cars. It's really a no-brainer, especially in Canada. It's the case pretty much everywhere, but especially in Canada, there's no question about it. So if anyone's unsure about what exactly the environmental benefit looks like, what the financial benefit could look like for them, for their specific circumstances, depending on how much they drive, depending on what they currently drive, there's a number of tools out there available. One that I usually recommend is Carbon Counter. It's carboncounter.net. You can check out what it's going to cost you roughly per month, depending on how long you own the car, depending on how much you drive. So there are a number of tools available to figure this out for your particular situation. So I'd be remiss if I don't mention the fact that beyond the climate impacts, the greenhouse gas reduction impact, EVs help reduce air pollution. As you know, air pollution from transportation causes a number of public health issues, cancer, cardiovascular, respiratory health, you name it. So it's an added benefit of switching to EVs.
And you said particularly in Canada. Why in Canada is it more conducive to have a car like this?
Well, so the energy mix is very clean. And I mean, it's been shown that even in places where the energy mix is more fossil fuel focused, there are still benefits. But when you take, you know, the energy mix of areas or regions where you have a significant portion or, you know, 100% that's clean power, then you really realize the full benefits of driving an EV.
Professor Boulet, would you like to add any pros and?
Yeah, I agree with Audrey. And actually, another argument for electric vehicles is that even in, for example, in the US, some states have a mix that is less clean, but still it's been proven to be cleaner to drive an EV. But when you think about it, also, the power stations are getting shut down and at a very high rate right now. So if you would put 1 million vehicles that are combustion engine vehicles on the road, they're going to be on the road for 10 years. There's no way you're going to change the powertrain in them. But the power station can be changed within 2 years with billions of dollars of investment. And all of a sudden, all the EVs on the road are perfectly clean, or, you know, much cleaner. And so anyway, which way you look at it, EVs are always cleaner. It's by far the better solution, by far. So I would say also that the pros and cons of electric vehicles, I've owned an electric vehicle for 4 years now, a little over 4 years. And I think, you know, as a personal experience, when you turn on the car, first of all, there's no turning the key and hearing an engine that has trouble coming to life. It's the EV is completely silent. It's silent, so you wonder if it's on. Then when you step on the pedal, you know it's on. And so you press the pedal, the car just takes off instantly, very smoothly, silently, no fussing, no growling, no, I don't want to start today because it's too cold. And you know, a car like this, any EV really will just accelerate very linearly, no dead time. It responds to your commands very naturally with one pedal driving, it's called, because it's got regen braking as well. So pretty much all the cars have regen braking. What is it? It's that when you lift your foot from the pedal, you command negative torque from the motors. So the motors turn into generators. They basically decelerate the vehicle, but at the same time, they take the kinetic energy of the car and transform it into electricity that is pushed back into the battery. So it's no longer not only very smooth in driving, it's also recuperating energy that you would otherwise lose through friction brakes. Okay, that would just generate heat and it's lost energy. So driving an EV is a one pedal thing usually. Okay, rarely you touch the brake pedal, and so I find it. I drive a lot. I have a cottage up north, and I drive long drives and minus 30 with wind, and there's no concern. These cars are so controllable on snow and icy conditions. It's incredible. Because, you know, think about an icy road where you have to lift your foot from the accelerator pedal, you have to push the brake. Things, wheels start to slide because they block, and the ABS has trouble taking over, and then you change pedal to pedal. It's very difficult to control. An electric vehicle, you will very gently control its pace, decelerate gently, not start sliding. It's really incredible.
So what are the main challenges then to get this more started in a city? What do we need to implement it quicker?
Yeah, so well, I think that one thing that people don't realize, because they say, there's no charging station nearby. If you have the benefit of being able to charge at home, there is no reason to go to a charging station. 99% of the time, you're just like you're charging your cell phone at night. You're plugging your car. It takes 5 seconds, not only 5 seconds. Plug, you don't think about it. The next day, you've got full charge, full range, every day. Okay. Why would why would I want to have a fuel station in my house? Nobody has a fuel station in their house because it's impossible to do. So you're forced to go to a fuel station to refuel. For electric cars, by far, most of the time, you don't even have to go anywhere to recharge. It's charged. Now, the problem in cities is that there high-rise apartment buildings that don't necessarily have parking space for everybody, and that it can be difficult to get agreement among condo owners, for example, or the owners of the building to install charging equipment and the kind of sharing that's going to go on. Because you don't want, if you have 100 apartments in the building, you don't want the 100 charging chargers or charging plugs. You want to have maybe 10 or 20, and how are you going to implement all this? It's all doable in a sense, but it is a bit of a problem that's being addressed quite a bit right now by municipalities, by the building codes are changing right now. And I should add that the vehicles, Audrey stated that many of the vehicles have over 350 kilometers of range. It could be sufficient for a full week of driving if you're just commuting. So you could go to the supercharger, the charging station, fast charging station on a Saturday morning, charge for an hour or so, and you have enough juice for the week. That's another possibility. This is more like the fuel station model, but it's the fast charging station model with a large battery on board. Most of the cars now that you would buy would have over 400 kilometers or 350 at least, cars that you buy. Okay, so if that's enough for your commute for the week, you're fine.
Audrey, would you like to add anything to the challenges?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would go in the same way. Charging is not a challenge for most EV owners today. I mean, they have their own charging station at home. Like Benoit said, it's extremely convenient, even more so than having to fuel a gas car. For city dwellers, though, that's where things can get a little bit complicated. Retrofitting existing multi-unit buildings can be costly or very difficult. But yeah, that's where cities have a lot of power. Cities can come in and solve this issue fairly simply, really, and at no cost. So that's those who know me are growing tired of hearing me say this, but the single biggest action that cities can take to accelerate EV adoption is to require EV infrastructure in residential and commercial buildings, not just multi-unit residential buildings. Although in Quebec, single-family homes are already covered under the building code, but buildings with more than 4 units are not covered, and that's where the challenge really is. So cities across Canada can require buildings to new buildings to have this infrastructure built in, and that reduces costs down the line to help retrofit older buildings. Of course, there's still going to be a challenge there. That can be partly solved with some form of rebates, but let's try and solve this problem so that we don't have to put public funds into retrofitting buildings that were built in 2021. That would be nonsense. So there's many cities in BC that have already done this. Richmond is one of them that pops up in my mind right now, but a couple of them in Quebec have started doing this. Laval, Granby, just I believe last week, passed a requirement as well. So this is slowly happening, but if cities want to accelerate EV adoption, this is the key action they need to take. Some of them are already doing it. So.
Thank you both for your contributions. Maybe one last question to wrap it all up. What do you think the future holds in terms of sustainable transportation?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. So I have strong views about that. This is why my lab is looking at both electric and autonomous vehicles. We're doing autonomous vehicle research. My view is that the future of personal transportation is clearly what we call robo-taxis or electric autonomous vehicles. So service on demand, for transportation. And I would say that for sure, we're going to look at all the time at public transport and electric public transport, not diesel, please. And that's fine for large cities. And that's needed in large cities like the metro or the REM here in Quebec that we're building right now in Montreal. But for anything else, for personal transportation, I do believe that the end game, and all the companies are battling it out right now, it's the robotaxi model. And that entails things like, how are these autonomous cars going to charge? So there's going to be an autonomous charging station with autonomous cars coming. How do you regulate which car is going to charge at what time for what cost? So there's going to be automated microtransactions, bidding between autonomous cars. It's seemingly a weird future, but it's coming very fast. And it's not that weird. It's going to be, when you think about how Uber was disruptive, you probably remember the first time you took an Uber. It was so easy, you just click on your app and poof, here's a car within a minute, wherever you were in the world, pretty much. It's going to be that kind of disruption too, but now the car will be driverless, and there could be some, perhaps once the technology is well established, people will feel safer. And so we'll see. But clearly the cost per kilometer will be the lowest for that. And these cars will never rest in a way, be 24 hours on waiting somewhere or being on the road or charging, but being in service. That's what I think is happening, given that there are tens of billions, if not, I would say maybe in the $1 trillion now of investment. There is no way back. This is coming.
Audrey, do you feel like that's what the future holds, or is there a little modification in your mind?
No, I mean, that's certainly part of it. And yeah, I mean, we often think of autonomous cars as being, like these cars that are just driving themselves alone. But in the meantime, there's this whole transition going towards that kind of model where you have these technologies that are assisting drivers and ensuring that roads are safer, not only for the drivers and their passengers, but also for pedestrians, for cyclists. So this is, these technologies are already having a big impact on the way that we use cars, and how safe the roads are. But for me, when you talk about the future and what the future holds in terms of transportation, first thing that comes to mind is the cost of EVs, the cost of batteries going down very, very rapidly. Over year, technology improves in terms of energy density, in terms of the materials that are used in the batteries. And so it means that EVs are becoming more and more accessible. Really, there's several studies, there's ICCT, there's Bloomberg NEF, there's several others that are projecting that EVs will reach purchase price parity with gas vehicles in the next roughly 3 to 4 years. So we're talking about cars. Obviously, the timeline depends on how large the vehicle is, the type of vehicle, but in 3 to 4 years, we could expect to see EVs or battery electric vehicles reach purchase price parity with gas cars, and that's going to be a major tipping point. Does that mean you should wait to transition to an electric car? Absolutely not. I'm actually really mad. I haven't done it before 2019. I should have done it way, way before. Although I was born on a transport cocktail using public transportation and not driving so much before that. But all that to say, I think 2021 is certainly not too soon to be switching. When you look at the cost of an EV today, the sticker price can be a little scary for some, but there's several used models now available on the market. And even for the new vehicles, what you see is sticker price that may be a little bit scary, but over time, your overall cost of ownership is lower. So I often hear people who are like, I'm just going to wait until they get cheaper. I'm going to wait until battery technology gets better. I mean, nobody waited until the iPhone 10 came on the market to get a smartphone. Technology evolves very rapidly, but it's still worth the switch today.
Thank you, Professor Boulet and Audrey Dépault. I hope our listeners enjoyed learning more about electric vehicles. To find out more about the sustainability indicators and how to engage with your municipality on sustainability issues, go to climatereality.ca/NCL. And for more news about what McGill researchers and students are doing on the sustainability front, visit mcgill.ca.